Hey there, this is the last edition of our Period 3 PowerPoints. This is going to be on the same blog page, but you don't have to do both of them this evening, or if you want to, that's fine with me. Again, make sure you're keeping up with your reading, chapters 5 through 10, and you will have a vocab quiz next time we meet. So just very quickly, this was the last slide we saw in the last PowerPoint. The articles of questioning the social changes that are happening in this revolutionary era. Slavery is still a big question. The idea of slavery absolutely contradicts the spirit of the revolution. The Continental Congress goes as far to abolish the importation of enslaved people, but does not eliminate slavery. The northern states, however, end slavery completely. Now we're going to look at the creation, the writing, the drafting, the headache that comes along with creating the Constitution and the new republic. So, from the signing of the Treaty of Paris to the meeting of the Constitutional Convention, which is about 4 years, the U.S. operates under the Articles of Confederation. During this time, the country faces major problems, both foreign and domestic. It was decided at a meeting that a meeting would be held in Philadelphia to fix the problems with the Articles of Confederation. The people did not like what the Articles of Confederation were doing to the country, and some say it didn't do enough, some said it was doing too much, back and forth, a lot of bickering. So let's just get together like we did in the First and Second Continental Congresses and work it out. So all 13 states show up, and they're called to send in delegates to Philadelphia. Only Rhode Island, who didn't trust any of the other states, refused to send delegates. So all 13 states except for Rhode Island are present. 55 delegates are sent in total. They are all white. They are all males. They are mostly college educated. They were young, and most were far wealthier than the average American. So they're sending kind of the elites of their state to come figure some stuff out. Key issues that this Congress is going to deal with. One, the convention started with debate, and it would go on that way until it was over. Some people just wanted to revise the Articles of Confederation. However, there were strong nationalists there who wanted an entirely new document. Most Americans in the 1780s distrusted the government. They didn't have a good relationship with Britain. The American Revolution left them weary, and the decline of, the building of this new independent nation and Shays' Rebellion and all that stuff doesn't add a lot of positive impact. So a lot of people were jaded. They feared that officials would seize every opportunity to abuse their power. The Nationalists, which was led by Madison and Hamilton, wanted a new constitution to be based on a system of checks and balances. Big questions about what representation was going to look like. Should the larger states like Virginia and Pennsylvania have more representatives in Congress than the smaller states like New Jersey and Delaware? Madison proposes what becomes known as the Virginia Plan, and the Virginia Plan favors the larger states. And then in a rebuttal to that, we see the New Jersey Plan, which obviously is going to favor the smaller states. They had to come to a compromise to finally resolve this issue of representation, and this becomes known as the Great Compromise. So the Great Compromise provides for a two-house Congress, which is what we see today, right? A House of Representatives as well as a Senate. So in the Senate, states would have equal representation. We have two senators, mostly a Republican and Democrat, but Maine has an independent in Angus King. And then you have the House of Representatives, in which each state would be represented according to the size of their population. Slavery becomes another huge, hotly debated issue. Again, slavery goes against the spirit of the revolution. The importation of enslaved people had been crossed out or eliminated, and the North is really anti-slavery, and nobody's really keeping slaves. So it becomes an issue. Should enslaved people, especially in terms of representation, should enslaved people be counted as part of the state population? they come up with what we call the 3/5 compromise. This counted each slave as 3/5 of a person for the purpose of determining the state's level of taxation and representation. I will go into this much further when I see you. Thinking about counting a human being as 3/5 of a person drives me nuts, and have quite a bit to say about it, and I don't want to take up all my time and your time here on our lecture. So come to class, we'll discuss it, I promise. Should slave trade be allowed? Another hot issue debated. Delegates decide to guarantee that slaves could be imported for at least 20 years longer until 1808. Congress could vote to abolish the practice of slavery after that date if they wanted to. So they're kind of putting a cap on it and to revisit it at a later date. Trade. The northern states wanted a central government to regulate interstate, which means trading between the states' commerce, and of course foreign trade from our country to other countries and back and forth. The South was afraid that export taxes would be put on their agricultural products. So they come up with something called the Commercial Compromise. The Commercial Compromise allowed Congress to regulate interstate and foreign commerce. This included taxes on foreign imports and prohibited taxes on exports. So this is a benefit for the people in the United States. Whoops. The president. Who is going to be the president? What is that going to look like? How long will this person be president for? Some people believe that the person they chose should be president for life. And then they decided, maybe we should pick terms. They came up with a 4-year term with no limit to the number of terms. So you could serve forever and ever and ever until you got ousted, voted out. How do we set up choosing this president? Obviously, it would be an elected official, and this is when they come up with the Electoral College, which played a huge part in our nation's most recent presidential election. So we'll talk more about this in class. How much power does the president get? What can they do? What can't they do? A lot of people debated about, okay, we don't want a king or a monarchy, so what role will a president have and not be in total control and become a king or a monarch? They decided, however, to give the president considerable power, and this included the right to veto both acts of Congress. Ratification. Ratification of the Constitution happened September 17th, 1787, after 17 long weeks of debating during this convention. They finally approved a draft of the Constitution. And now, after they do that, now they have to submit it to the states for ratification, which could be another who knows how long. During this time, we see kind of the growth of Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Federalists are people who support the Constitution and its idea for strong federal centralized government. The states that fall into this category were typically on the Atlantic coast and large cities. And then you had the Anti-Federalists, and these were people who opposed the Constitution and a strong federal government. Mostly these were small farmers and settlers on the western frontier who didn't think that the Constitution and a strong centralized government would be very helpful to them. We'll also talk more about the Federalist Papers when I see you next. And last but not least, the Bill of Rights. In 1789, the first Congress elected under the Constitution added a number of amendments before the actual Constitution begins, and these amendments list the people's rights. The Bill of Rights is adopted by the states in 1791 and obviously becomes known as the Bill of Rights. And essentially, this is the first through the 10th amendments. And you hear a lot about those in the news with freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to bear arms, that's the Second Amendment, so on and so forth. So we'll talk a little bit more about this when I see you in class next time. So hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.